If you're looking for IELTS Speaking Part 2 tips, you're in the right place. I know that many students often feel nervous preparing their answers for IELTS Speaking Part 2. So in today's video, I'm actually going to provide you with the right strategies you can use to structure your answers for the Part 2 section. So let's get right into the video. Assalamu alaikum everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Miss Wafa and I'm an English professor here in Canada. So first things first, when the examiner hands you the IELTS Speaking Part 2 question, you will be given 1 minute to prepare your answer. In this 1 minute, I need you to remember not to overthink your responses. Try to write out or plan out your answers as clear as possible so that way you know you are going to discuss everything that's required of you. So let me give you an example. Let's say the examiner asks you something like, describe a memorable trip. Where did you go? Who did you go with? What did you do? And why you went. All you need to do is you need to jot down 2 to 3 words to remind you what you are going to discuss to speak for a full 2 minutes. So here's an example of how exactly your notes should look. Where you went, Paris, when, summer of last year, what you did, you visited different famous landmarks, and why it's memorable. Because it was your first time seeing the Eiffel Tower. Stick to a simple structure so that way you're not confused reading off your paper and not looking at the examiner, because if you do this, it's going to affect your band score. So you want to make sure you're confident at just quickly looking at your answers and just continuing your discussion. And the second tip is avoid irrelevant discussions. Get to the point, be direct. When you are introducing your topic, you don't need to ramble on so much. Just give 1 to 2 sentences to introduce what you are going to begin discussing. For example, if the examiner asks you, describe someone you really admire. A great introduction would be, the person I really admire is my mother. She's an incredible woman and has so much wisdom to share with everyone. That's it. 2 sentences. Very clear and to the point. Try to avoid saying things like, admiration is a quality that everybody should have. It's something so respectful. There are many kinds of admiration. This has nothing to do with the question that is being asked. Just get to the point. The examiner doesn't want a lecture. He's just looking for the answer. So be clear, concise, and to the point. And the third tip is to use a variety of tenses. Part 2 is actually a great time where you can use all 3 tenses, past, present, and future. For example, when you want to talk about the past, you could say something along the lines of, last year I visited Paris with my family. And to speak about the future, you could say, I still think about how the Eiffel Tower looked at night. And for the future, you could say something like, I hope to visit next year with my children. Remember, mixing tenses actually makes your discussion a lot more dynamic and sound a lot more natural. And oh yeah, it will help you get a higher score for grammar. And the fourth tip is to use different phrases that's going to help you start your answer. This is actually going to help you sound more natural when you are just introducing your response. So take a look at some example phrases you can use. And speaking of practice, ladies, if you're looking to join a community where you will be able to practice your speaking, then you might find my IELTS Speaking Ladies Club really interesting. This ladies club is actually hosted over Zoom. I actually teach you ladies. We go over different IELTS speaking mock tests. I give you feedback and I give you any suggestions, tips on anywhere I think you can improve on. If you are interested in this ladies club, make sure you join down below. I've made it specifically for those of you who are stay-at-home moms, who have lots of responsibility of taking care of your children, and maybe you want to learn English from home and you want to become that confident English speaker, check the description box down below. For starting your answer, you could say something like, I'd like to talk about the time. For describing an event, you could say something like, this actually happened sometime last year. And for concluding, you could say something like, overall, it was a fantastic experience, and conclude the sentence by saying what you enjoyed about it. These phrases are adaptable, and you're pretty much able to use these phrases for any type of question you're given on your exam. And the fifth tip is use cohesive devices to stay organized. Cohesive devices or linking words are actually going to make you sound a lot more fluent throughout your answer. And here are some examples you could use. To start your discussion, you could say something like, first of all, to begin with, let me start by saying, and to add more point, you could say something like, what's more, in addition, also, and then finally, to conclude your discussion, you could say something like, to conclude, to wrap up, in summary. For example, here's a sample sentence you could use these phrases in. I'd like to talk about a book I recently read. First of all, it's a novel written by my favorite author. What's more, the story was so engaging, it actually made me read the book for 5 hours straight. What's more is the story is so intense, I couldn't put the book down. Finally, I think it's one of the best books I read. And guys, the sixth tip is to practice and get creative. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will feel on exam day. Use practice questions to build your confidence throughout your answers. And remember to try to make your responses as personable and engaging as possible. When you're speaking, try to really remember the question that's being asked rather than just rambling on. It's so easy to just continue talking without realizing you're going off topic. For example, if the examiner asks you a question like, what is your favorite hobby? Talk about something you're genuinely passionate about. Maybe share a story or give unique details on a hobby you would like to learn. And guys, the bonus tip I'd like to give you as promised is expand your vocabulary with idioms and different phrases. Using idioms and phrases can actually boost your band score in the IELTS speaking section. So here's a few idioms you could use. Over the moon. Over the moon means to be extremely happy about something. Piece of cake. Something that is very easy. And some phrases you could use are one of the most memorable experiences in my life, which means a once in a lifetime opportunity. But remember to only use these phrases and idioms only if you're comfortable. You don't want to sound like you've memorized a bunch of phrases and now you're just going to say them even if they don't make sense. So guys, those are my 6 practical tips that will help you score a high band in your IELTS Speaking Part 2 section. And guys, if you'd like a PDF version of this lesson, then make sure you check my description box down below for a link where you are able to download the PDF version of this lesson. If you like this video, then make sure you check out this video above of more idioms you can use on your IELTS speaking exam. I'll see you over there. Assalamu alaikum.